In common with many inner-city educational institutions, St Charles Catholic Sixth Form College is a multicultural and multi-ethnic community. It's part of our metropolitan location and indeed our Catholic identity that it should be that way. Students achieve well here, whatever their ethnic or their cultural background, and that includes male students from the Afro-Caribbean community. But their relative underachievement is still an issue that concerns us. As a group, they're overrepresented at the foundation and intermediate levels of the curriculum, and to that extent, we inherit some underachievement. And also, as principal of the college, I'm sometimes anxious that we don't always relate to or connect with Afro-Caribbean male students as productively as we should. This problem, and I suppose it's been understood as a problem so far, has been dominated by sociologists, by educationalists, and by politicians. What we've tried to do in this film is give the students themselves centre stage in the definition of the issues as they impact on them. Students in the film are drawn from all levels of the curriculum, from those on vocational programmes at a foundation level, to those aspiring to and indeed securing places at leading universities. The film also includes a discussion with their female counterparts from the black community. And we've used 3 interviews with Afro-Caribbean male teachers at the college, each of whom used to be a student here. When we started this project, I was naive enough to think that together with our students, we'd find a set of recommended practices or strategies that put together would constitute some kind of solution to this challenge. Well, that hasn't happened. Indeed, many of the things talked about you may already be familiar with. But the authenticity of the reflections and observations of what the young people say has its own power and certainly does map out some ways forward for us. The film is not full of snappy sound bites. It's fairly long. It challenges our 3-minute concentration culture. We thought it important that the students should make their own points in their own way and at their own pace. However, we've edited the discussions into themes so that colleagues can select the sections of the film that they most want to engage with, whether used in the classroom or in training sessions. So what can the film be used for? Well, we think it can help sensitise teachers who are working with students in this community. Certainly the film does identify certain strategies and certain practices that could help promote achievement from Afro-Caribbean male students. Definitely the film perhaps could be used as a trigger for debates in other educational institutions, schools or colleges that want to engage with this challenge in their own way. Most importantly, what the film does demonstrate is the talent and the potential of Afro-Caribbean male students who've got a serious engagement with their own future, both individually and collectively. And together with teachers that are sensitive to their stories, but insistent on their achievement, that future should be a very, very good one.
Afro-Caribbean students are more, they're more hyper when it comes to education-wise, because half of the time they think they're still in the streets, forgetting that they're in the classroom.
Okay, but hyper in what sort of ways? What are the root causes of these confrontations?
Generally, they have a short fuse, or they at least try to act like they do, to try and maybe, I'm not saying everyone like that, but some of them that I've actually seen, they try to act like they got a sort of fuse to maybe gain respect from people, to say, right, I'm the big man around here. Just more confrontational.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying in that, yeah, but it's like, if you're really like that and you're like, because what say now, right, the teachers speak to you in a certain way, right? They talk to you as if, okay, say now, you can say shut up to someone, yeah, to tell them to be quiet, and then you can say, oh, could you be quiet, right? And you'll get a different response from either way you say it. And then people, us as Afro-Caribbean kids, yeah, a lot of the time we're out on road because like of the where we've been brought up. We've been brought up in a community like where maybe you play out, when you're younger you play out with each other and that, and then you go on to bigger things, you try to start making money and that. And to be able to live like in that environment, you have to be able to, when someone tells you to shut up, like, who are you talking to? You know what I'm saying? It's like, so when you come into the classroom and a teacher tells you, shut up, like, wait a second. Like,
but that's not always the case, though. It's not always the case.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. Like, and there are people that have actually do that stuff, yeah, and they can, people who are actually from the street, if you want to call it that, yeah, can tell the people that are pretending, the people that are like,
fake.
Yeah, you can see them from a mile off. Like when they, the teachers told them, "Shut up," like, yeah, you're blood, yeah, no, I'm blood, no, stupid.
So what you're saying to me is that the sort of instant reaction that some black boys give off is due to the way in which they feel they have to behave when they're outside the classroom. So,
yeah, it's
so if you're confronting on the streets and someone told you to be quiet or shut up, your instant reaction to say, well, what are you talking about? So rather than follow the request, to be fair, you probably shouldn't be told to shut up at any point, but if you're asked to be quiet, if you're asked to quiet down because a teacher's got to get on with something, are you saying to me that Afro-Caribbean boys are more likely to give a response which challenges that request?
I don't think it's like that. It's just the, it's not the fact. If we're told to be quiet, we're not unreasonable. Of course, we're going to be quiet, but it's the way that you can put across. If you tell anyone to shut up, the person's going to be, why are you talking to me like that? But with an Afro-Caribbean boy, yeah, when you're on the road and someone tells you to shut up and you like, shh, you be quiet and that, the people around you are going to see that and be like, okay, that guy, yeah, we can do, yeah, I'm going to talk to him like that. Oh, I can interfere in what he's doing. If he's trying to make money, I can interfere with that. But when the teachers tell you to shut up, it's going to be exactly the same thing. So
that's not always the case, because if you look at it this way, for a teacher to tell you to shut up, all right, so either you done something wrong or the class done something wrong. And when students respond like, what are you speaking to me like that for? I don't believe that has something to do with the streets, because no matter who you are in the streets, there's always someone bigger than you.
I think a lot of confrontation, yeah, is due to like preconceptions and lack of knowledge as well. Because if you're a person that's never been around black people, but if you've grown up like in a predominantly white area or wherever you're Asian or whatever your background is, if you've grown up like that, and then like through the media or whatever, like you hearing all this stuff like, oh, a black man stole this woman's handbag, or, you know what I'm saying, held up a shop, robbed it, shot all the customers, whatever they want to say. Yeah, if that's all you're hearing there, then that's all you're going to really know, because you don't have no other thing, no other understanding for yourself. So
yeah, that's going to be your that's going to be your sort of perception of what black people are like.
That's all you're going to know.
Like the stereotype that all black people are thieves and that, and like some of them like racist jokes. Like.
So in a way, yeah, I think you can only blame teachers to a certain extent, but at the same time they have to learn how to open their mind to understanding and reasoning, and they need to come, both student and teacher need to come from these barriers of, I'm the student, you're the teacher, this is the line of authority, if you cross it, this is going to happen. But that should be for a certain extent, but I don't think it should be like so rational all the time, because that's when like students just, they give up trying after a while because they see it as unfair or whatever they want to call it.
And that's I'm not even going to say this, Afro-Caribbean males, that's more students in general. I think, like you said, instead of it being, I'm the teacher, you're the student, these are the rules, break the rules, blah, blah, blah. Before we get to that, before we set that, it's got to be, I'm a person, you're a person.
We're both here to achieve something.
It's got to be on a level. And I think it's misconceptions on both sides, on both the student and the teacher. Fair enough, you might do a little something rash, one day in particular, but you've got to check it as it being, well, all right, fair enough, he's never done anything like that before. Why has he done that? Or if he is constantly doing it, why is he constantly doing it? You've got to check the meaning behind the behaviour and try and figure that out before we take. I'm not saying you can't, I'm not saying rule with an iron fist, but I'm not saying, you got to rule with a clay dough one either.
We're here to learn, yeah, and you can see that, if you can see that the teacher's gonna be picking on you, yeah, I know it's not right, you shouldn't have to do it, but like, keep away from the teacher. Don't make the teacher have to speak to you. You know what I'm saying? Get on with what you gotta do and come out of the college. If you don't like that teacher, come into the classroom, do what you gotta do and come out. It's like, why, it gets tiring having to like argue with the teacher all the time. It's like, well, why is crack there, why is crack there? It's like, it's stupid. It's like, just do what you gotta do, come out. Because at the end of the day, the teacher's getting paid no matter what happens, right? So why don't you let the teacher get paid and you get paid in your education, instead of like, argue with the teacher, yeah, but I've still got my face, yeah, but you ain't got no education. It's not even like the education, you haven't got that piece of paper to say, right, I can do that, so you can get that job. You know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, the teacher's like, boy, where are you, where am I? You're standing at the bus stop, I'm in my car.
Okay. Just focus on what you need to do.
Yeah, focus what you got to do.
There's a clash of personalities. Just
yeah, it's like, it's nothing personal.
When students leaves home, everyone probably think I'm gonna go to college today or school, do my work, so when I get home, I've got more time to watch football, whatever, but that don't happen. When a teacher's in the wrong and a student, I say it's very important that it's sorted out there and then. But teachers always want to take it that extra length just to show the student that I'm the teacher. No matter what you do, I'm gonna win. And that's always the problem. That students thinking, hold on, yeah, I did this incident last week. Why you bring it up now, miss? Sir. The whole drag is for no apparent reason.
So you believe that if teachers didn't bring up the past, then that'll go some way towards bring about a solution in the future.
If something happens today, they call your parents in, whatever. The teacher apologizes, you apologize, that's done, that's forgotten with. You do something next week, there's no need to bring up, and you're thinking, why are you bringing this up?
Teacher's male, the young male may not feel like he's not used to having a male role model around him, so if someone's telling him what to do, he may not feel like it's right, so therefore he's just acting out. He's just acting like he's the dominant male. You can't tell me what to do. Yeah, because it's 50-50. You can't blame it on the teacher and you can't blame it on the male. It's just the way he reacts to things. So.
Okay, so it's good that you actually mentioned that point, because do you actually believe that part of the reason why young black males underachieve at education is the absence of actual black male role models in their lives? To a certain extent, maybe the absence in many families of fathers within the families.
That's a strong factor. I think that young male achieve because they have underachieve because they have less black role models to support them. Like they can look up to and say, yeah, I want to be like that. Most of the role models like black boys have are rappers who've been in prison a couple of times, come out, done drugs on the streets. Such as 50 Cent got shot 9 times. Just lots of them.
Tupac.
Shine, Tupac, yeah,
and then
all of them.
If it's not music, it's sport. So when it gets to a certain age, you see all the boys not caring about their work and they're either rappers or they're playing basketball or they're going to be footballers and those kinds of things. And it just seems like the education and what they're learning in their lessons just takes a back seat, and then they just strive for like what they want to do in terms of those kind of dreams.
It's good that they've got like dreams to be like, it's good if somebody wants to say, oh, I want to be a footballer, I want to be a rapper, whatever. But at a certain point, it's not just the boy. The child. Like if whoever's in their life that they're living at home with hasn't told them that you've got to set boundaries, that you need something to fall back on. If they don't have installed values in themselves to know that I can only do certain things up to a certain point, then obviously they're just gonna go AWOL. I don't think the fact that they don't have a father is the main factor. I think it's mainly the upbringing, because you can be brought up as a young male without a dad and still make it. I think it's just an excuse rather than an actual factor.
from my experience, I think that boys are more susceptible to influence from their peers, because girls, even though everyone always goes on about how girls are always doing what each other are doing, I think it's more so for boys, because they have to fulfill a certain role and they have to look a certain way in front of their friends, in front of girls, so they can maintain a reputation or feel that they are successful in the crowd that they're in or the area they're in. So I think the attitudes of their friends is the most influential factor over the parents, because once you're out of the home, you spend the majority of your time outside in school by a certain age, so then that's when things start to go wrong, especially, you know, even if you have got positive parents as an influence or as role models, your friends.
I suppose, I think that areas has a big influence as well. Most black people dominate areas that are low, like, socio-economically, so in those areas, all they can recognise with, like they say, is rappers as well. They haven't really got people that are like teachers, lawyers, and also I think the media also portrays statistics as the rich list are always, you know, middle class, white people. So black people don't actually feel that they can actually reach that stage ever in their life. So therefore, that's why I think they recognise with the rappers, they recognise with like basketball players and feel this is where black people dominate, this is where we're going to be accepted, so this is where I'm going to go.
Me, I would say my mother. She's my role model. She's single parents, three kids, that's me and my 2 little brothers, and she's surviving. And I believe if a person comes from a large family, let's say a family of 8, and in that family there's role model, that should not bring him down. If anything, should make him stronger, thinking, you know what, these are my little brother, I'm gonna have kids of my own one day. No, I really, really want to be the role model. If that was the case, saying that black people have no role model, look at Martin Luther King. The biggest, if that's the case, Nelson Mandela. Nelson Mandela turned his life. What more would you want? I don't believe in that. Seriously don't.
On a real, like, I personally, my role models, my mum, obviously, but, like, I look to people like Tupac and that, like, you're coming from nothing, and you're trying, it's like, I believe that people say that on, like, where we come from, like, on the street, that, how education is, well, not on the street, people don't promote education. Anyone that does anything on road and does their little weeding and dealing will tell anyone that's not doing it, go to school, go and do what you got to do. Because I'm in this position because I didn't do that. You know what I'm saying? Like, we got, on the news, they don't have anything positive to say about us. Nothing. We're in this room talking about how we're at the bottom of the table. That's nothing positive. We're not being encouraged that, okay, you're doing good. You know what I'm saying? When you're encouraged to do something, obviously you're gonna get better at it. You're gonna be top. If you're told, yeah, you're doing good, you could be like, yeah, I'm doing good. Let me see if I can do even better. If someone telling you, right, you're the bottom, everyone else is outshining you. A lot of me personally, I'll be like, okay, fine, watch, I'm gonna prove you wrong. Yeah, I'm gonna do better than I can, than you think I'm gonna do.
But in most
there's not
cases,
people that are not that strong.
In most cases, if that's fed into you, like, you know, like, you're useless, you're rubbish, you're gonna start thinking, oh, the first time you're useless, no, miss, I'm not useless, I'm not rubbish. You're useless, you're rubbish, you're useless, it's gonna get in your brains. Like, just saying you're the best, you're gonna think, yeah, I'm the best.
Junior, can you tell me who your role model might be? Do you have any role models in your life at the moment?
Well, I only could say it would be my mum. As I'm an only child, I live with my mum, I don't live with my dad. The only person I could really look up to is my mum. And I go to her for any questions I need to ask. If I need to figure out what to do, I'll go to my mum. That's really the only person I can look forward to.
Yeah, I'll say the same, my mum.
Yeah, but
this seems to be interesting because some people say, well, the fact that there's a lack of lack of a male role model in your lives actually makes it more difficult for some, not for all, because there are young black boys who are achieving, yet there are a sizable amount who are not. But I say there's this lack of fathers within the households which make it more difficult to get that sort of support which helps you to achieve.
Yeah.
My thoughts will mirror exactly what you say. I too come from a single parent family, but the fact that I have 4 young lads in front of me who are all saying the same thing, their mothers are the role models. Do you believe that your attitude towards education might be any different if you had a father also to look up to?
It depends, because if like where I'm from, like my family, I have no choice but to go out there, do the best. Because if your mum is your role model, she's a single parent, right, and you go out there, you go to school, college, whatever, you know, every time she get called in college, school, there's a problem with your child, your problem done this, you're not really doing nothing. And if you're a single parent, you should really think, look, my mom's going through all of this, because for her to be a single parent raising up kids, she's basically taking away half of her life. You know, she has to collect you, she has to do this for you, she has to cook for you, she has to be there for you, and your father's not there. And if that's the case, I strongly believe, because it's the simple fact that I grew up without my father, I don't want my kids to go through that. And I strongly believe getting education, okay, sometimes education, some people can make it in life without education, right? But don't let that fool you. You will need education just in case you don't have, not everyone has the same lucky break.
Well,
no, like, what you're saying, like, it's true what Francis is saying, yeah, about the mum and stuff like that, but I think, like, obviously not having a dad, or speaking from I can't say obviously, but speaking from me, like, it does make you, like, less focused, like, especially if you haven't, like, say if you was living with your dad or whatever, then you're not with him no more. Me personally, it makes me, like, less focused on what to do, but in a way it also makes me more focused for the fact that, okay, he's gone, like, I want to make something of myself to make him wish that he never went, to make him wish that, okay, this is what my son's doing, and then if he was to come back to me and like, oh, hi Joel, whatever like that, I want to give him the time of day, like, I proved you wrong, that's what I was there to do. That's what my mother always tells me, always prove people wrong. So the talk that, like what you were saying before about people putting you down, say we're at the bottom of the table, in a way I like that. I like that kind of talk, because it motivates me to say, like, okay, I'm at the bottom, look how quick it takes me to get to the top.
If you have a father figure, you have someone to like when you come home, you see someone like your father figure, and also you can look to him and think, yeah, I want to be like that. That's how I want to grow up to be. I don't want to be no bum in the street, like shotting stuff and like, you know, just running the street all the time. I want to be like, going to work, I want to have a car. I want to have, my own business, like, you know, so it would be better if I had a father. I reckon it would push me more to work and get my qualifications more.
My name is Delroy. Okay, I'm a PE teacher here at St Charles. My education history is that I went to a secondary school in London. I did, not very well in my GCSEs. Then went on to do retakes back at St Charles, Sixth Form College. Then went on to university where I managed to do a HND. Later on followed on to do a degree and qualified as a teacher and came back here as a member of staff. Well, some of the key things that, were in the way of me achieving with my education were the fact that I succumbed to peer pressure quite a bit. A lot of my schoolmates weren't as motivated as they should have been, and I followed that pattern and found myself not really concentrating during lesson time. Well, in terms of positive methods of motivating students like I was, there's a lot of talk of difficulty with Afro-Caribbean students and struggling to succeed. When you focus on that so much, you forget what they have got to offer. You concentrate so much on trouble they're causing, but they are talented individuals if you really find out what it is they want to do. There was careers lessons that I had in my secondary school where you'd sit down and they wouldn't really discover what it is you want to do. I left there, I came to college, and certain programs were set up where they'd be based on vocational, so they'd be homing in on what you actually want to do career-wise, rather than if you're not strong academic, you're just there to struggle. Yeah. They'd focus on what you do career-wise. I was always into sport, so a career in sport would make sense to me. I didn't realise there were so many different opportunities within sport. It was either you're playing sport or you're watching it. It's one of the two. Yeah. I didn't realise you could actually had these many opportunities within sports. So focusing on that helped me a great deal. I did a retake program. Okay, I wasn't messing around as I was in school. I realised that I've got a goal that I can aim for. So I went through that system there. I managed to get decent results. I then went on to an advanced program which involved physical education and sport, which is what really I was interested in. So it was, it was all laid out for me basically.
Yeah.
I did that, and it helped me move on to higher education, which was my aim at the beginning of the day.
Yeah.
Well, the peer pressure, as it were, at college changes a great deal from that in school. Obviously I'm older. Things that I'm aiming for, are more intense. I mean, I ran out of time to waste because I was on a retake program. So therefore, I couldn't be messing around anymore. And a lot of the people that I was hanging around with or working with at college were just as motivated as I was. So that aspect had gone. Teaching methods used at the college were a lot better as far as they were gauging in on really what I want to do more. So it was a lot more detailed. And from that, the knock-on effect was my study methods changed. I was more focused on my studies. The sport was always there because there was a big influence of sport here, but it'd be less on me just playing football, more on, well, I'm part of the team, but I'm also studying. So, it went hand in hand. I never had a black teacher, so I can't imagine what it was for them to walk into a classroom and look at me and see, wow, he's a teacher and he's black. It must have been a shock at first, but the good thing is I can understand where they're coming from. The students that I teach, I did their subjects, so I know exactly the pressures that they're going through, and hopefully I'll be able to guide them on how to deal with these pressures. I get the impression there's a very friendly sort of atmosphere within my lessons all the time, especially at the beginning of the term. As long as they know there is a line there, I believe we do get along a lot better, them knowing that I am a student, particularly with the so-called troublemaking kids as well. They can see within me someone perhaps they can actually look up to or see that, well, if he can get up there, then so can I. And that relationship goes on throughout. To make it very simple, short-term and long-term. What they may see their peers outside of college with the fast car or the flashy, jewellery or, money to throw away, that's all short term. For whatever means they got that particular money or that, those flamboyant issues that they're walking around with, fine. But it's all short term. They will see in time these things will disappear. The long term is you knuckle down, you get an education, that piece of paper with so much value behind you. Then long term is you will be able to get half of these material things, because that's what they are really. Okay, but you would have earned it. With that, you would have earned respect, and you won't have to be on the run or causing any trouble to get that. Right? And if hopefully if they follow that sort of attitude, that sort of advice, they will succeed. But thankfully, I'm not that old, so I'm still up to date with the street talk that they come up with, and I hear them, I see them use it all the time, and it actually humours me. And so we get a bit of a rapport when I'm like, I might take the mickey out of them a little bit. So what does that mean then? But we've got that rapport, but they know after a while it gets a bit tedious and boring for them, me taking the mickey out of the use of the street language in the classroom where it's clearly not adequate. And so it just dies down and stops. The way they dress, self-respect. You come into a classroom, you just like pull up your trousers. You take off the cap, you don't need the bag on your back anymore. Get a pen, get organised. You're at work now, we've started our shift. And then, you start off in the beginning of the year, and slowly but surely they get into a pattern where it's automatic, and they don't need it anymore. I mean, fair enough, they go outside where their mates might be laughing at them carrying around a bag full of folders. What's all that about? But eventually it's like, well, I need these books. They actually mean something to me more than walking around looking like Mr. Cool. They all go away and make a lot of excuses, as though the world owes me A, B, and C. Half of the problem is that way of thinking. Okay, whether they come from a single parent family or they've got both their parents there who they've obviously, run into some trouble with and not really getting on with those at home, that's just an excuse. The majority of them, if you can catch them from the primary school, secondary school, till they get to somewhere like the sixth form college, they're as bright as the other kid who's got, the full family setup. Okay, they just need direction. That's the only thing missing is direction. Okay, I had plenty of friends at this stage, at that stage in my life, who weren't given direction. And they channeled their talents in other ways. If they were just given direction, they would, it wouldn't be an issue here. We'd probably be talking about a totally different group.
would it help or would it not help?
Help or not help?
I don't know. It's like it's balanced. Like it's balanced. It can not help, and it can help, like, in a way. Basically, as I said, like your friends can distract you. It's up to what friends you have, like what frame of mind your friends are at. Like they can either help you, or they could just lead you somewhere completely different, make you bunk lessons, make you do stupid things, make you get into stuff.
On a level, like, I don't mean to cut you off in that, yeah. But if they're supposed to be your boys, yeah, and they're trying to stop you from doing your work, they ain't your boys. They ain't your boys.
They're your peers, yeah, stay away from them.
Your boys, yeah, are the ones telling you, no, that's wrong, blood. Don't be doing that. Where do you see yourself in 10 years? Yeah, this is the road to go. You know what I'm saying? So when you fall, your boy's gonna be there to catch you. You know what I'm saying? And vice versa. You know what I'm saying? You can't.
It don't mean that you have to be good at it and say, you know what, we can't speak, do your work, you know. But they'll still disrupt you, but then still they can say, you know what, yeah, make sure you do that, you know. Can we stay behind after college, school, catch up? You know, you have the answer to this question.
If you're in an institution where you're got like a lot of your own kind around you, it kind of gives you support and that hope even, that because then you can look at someone, identify with someone of your own kind, someone that's probably coming from where you're coming from, similar surroundings, and you can think to yourself, right, it can be done because I'm not the only one here, kind of thing. I think socially it gives it would give any race more confidence if they're around more people of their own kind or whatever, but I think that's due to just the way humans are, you just feel comfortable around your own people, a lot of them. You know?
Yeah, I mean, if you've got that sort of a lot of people of the same race going through, more likely than not going through the same things that you're going through, but then you can or similar. But basically, you can sort of help each other get through. Like in hard times, they will actually truly understand what you're going through, so they can help you with help you get focused on studying, or help you when you've got family problems with that. If they've been through that, then they're in a better position. Then they'll be in a better position to help you because they will actually truly understand what you're going through. I mean, in that way, I reckon it can be very positive to have people of the same race. I mean, as was said already, if you see a lot of people from your race, I mean, even if you see a few people succeeding, you're gonna think, yeah, I can actually do it. It gives you seeing others that are like you succeeding gives you the belief and self-confidence. It sort of can give you the belief that you can achieve as well.
I think as girls in the classroom with boys who might not be as academically successful as us, even though they think, oh, I can't, if I don't get A's, then there's no point. I think what they need to understand is that it's an ongoing process and that everyone's had to start somewhere. So you might have got E's and stuff at first, but if they start to build on what they can do and start to learn the skills to get higher, instead of being defeatist and pessimistic about the fact that they're at the bottom of the grade boundaries, then they can start to understand that it takes work and that it's just ongoing rather than something that's overnight. And yeah, tomorrow I'll get A because I'm in my lesson. It's more than that. And I think when they understand that how girls continue to do the work, how they get help from each other, how they go to the teacher, how they get their work and say, well, hold on, what did I do wrong? I think if boys started to do more of those kinds of things and talk to people and be patient, that they would get a lot more from their lessons in their college or school. That's what I think.
So specifically, what can you do? Tell me what, as a girl in the classroom, and you've got a young black boy who is underachieving, he's getting into confrontations with teachers, he's not in all of his lessons. As a young black, academically successful girl, what can you do to try and help that kid get on the straight and narrow?
You're going to have to sympathise with them and understand their situation, because encouragement can only take them so far. If you sympathise and at least show them that you understand their situation, you know, talk to them, actually become a friend to them more than anything, not actually show them that, you know, we're at college, we're here to learn, and if you don't walk out of college with an A or A to E grade, then there was no point you coming college. You need, some people actually leave college with not the grades, but then they leave college to become successful writers or actors. And if you know, you can talk to them and be friends to them, explain to them that, okay, you may not be successful academic wise, but as you leave here, there's a talent that you may have that may help you. And if they see that someone's understanding their talents and understanding that there is more to them than what they can show inside the classroom, they're more likely to be driven and more successful.
How can the girls help the boys?
Boy, that is a real difficult one, you know. I suppose you'd have to take a sort of like psychological standpoint on it and get them both to work together rather than working as separate. You know, basically everyone in the classroom has got to come together as one and work together. That way, whoever doesn't understand can get someone else who does understand to explain it, and if they don't understand that, they can get the teacher. But as for what exactly like, to be real clear cut and crystal on it as to what the girls can do for the boys, it's hard to say.
I mean, because there's always this sort of thing that there's like gender wars going on. I mean, it's always like sort of boys versus girls. All these like league tables and official stats are all like boys versus girls. We're looking at boys' achievement versus girls' achievement. I reckon it should be more, instead of sort of gender wars, as Gerald said, it should be like more sort of coming together. I mean, I reckon black females could help black males by like sort of not necessarily coaching them, but just like trying to just like help them sort of, don't want to sound like preachy, but sort of like see the light, if anything. But I mean, I reckon they can help in sort of that way, like by sort of helping us to help ourselves.
Joshua?
Yeah, I agree with Gerald and my man here, because I think to an extent girls can help, black girls can help black boys, but as a black boy and knowing a lot of black boys, we have pride. Like some of us have too much, but there's pride. You know what I mean? It's black pride. Like
pride comes before a fall.
I mean, I think it help a lot. You know, I mean, even people like yourself, to see them in an institution like this, it make you think, well, you know, yeah, fair enough. They probably, when they came up, when they was my age, probably hard for them. Do you know what I mean? But at the same time, you know, they got their head down, they got on with it, and they're making something of themselves now. So, you know, I think it'd be sort of positive to see someone else that has already done it, so to speak. They're trying to help you, bring you up. So I think, you know, in a way, it's like having them there. It's like kind of giving back to them for trying so hard. You get what I mean?
Yeah, the teachers can be like a positive role model to them, so they can see, yeah, if they can do it, I can do it too. And then maybe they could go to the teachers for advice on the experience of what they had to go through, their struggle, and how to get that far.
I appreciate like that people think it might help, but if you've got a black teacher or you've got loads of black teachers, you get all A's and stuff, and you go to work and it's all white people, it's all Asian people, what are you going to do? Do you get what I mean? We live in a diverse country, but at the same time, this country is majority white and there's not as many ethnic minorities. So you have to get used to the fact that you're not always going to have black people around you. Yes. And what these black males need to understand is there is a game to play. When you're at college, when you're at school, there is a game. If a teacher is angry with you, you don't run your mouth. You say yes, yes, yes. If you don't agree, that's fine. But at the end of the day, you have to come back and you have to do what the teachers expect you to do, because that's how the game works. But the boys don't want to play like that. They want to play hard. They want to do everything in the opposite way. But if they just listened, still did what they want to do, but listened and came back with what the teacher wants, you get the same goal and the teacher's happy with you. That's true. I think it's important to understand what college expects from you, what school expects from you, and you know, take that on rather than think, okay, if my teacher's black, I'll be fine, because it's not going to be like that when you get to work.
I don't think that black students, they think, yeah, because they've got a black teacher, yeah, they're going to be fine. I think they look up to them in a certain way, think, yeah, he's made it, I want to be like him, I want to be like her.
I don't think
that.
My name is Ricardo Pascal. I went to an inner London school. After leaving school, came to this college, the sixth form college, where I began on an intermediate program and left with 3 A-levels. Then went on to higher education, got my degree, and then began working within a local borough, doing work for a youth offending team in a youth inclusion program. From there, I moved on to becoming a teacher and getting qualified teacher status. So now I'm teaching within this college, and I teach travel and tourism, GMBQ, and leisure and recreation as well. Expectations at home were always quite high, very high. I didn't always feel I was maybe pushed enough I felt as an institution, school had people who were going to be success stories. They didn't really need to push those who weren't going to be. They didn't really need to push them too hard, and I felt that had a big factor. Maybe quite low expectations.
Of you at school?
Yeah.
Even though there were high expectations of you at home?
That's right, yeah. And it was tough dealing with that. And really, I think it just takes strength of mind. I kind of recall being able to deflect peer pressure quite well. And I think the reason for that was because I had avenues where I could get respect from my peers without having to resort to things that maybe might be undesirable in the classroom. So I was quite successful on the sports field and so on. So I didn't really need to search for respect from everybody from other avenues. So I could really, knuckle down and not really be a problem to anybody in the classroom, because I was succeeding and I had respect from the peers anyway on the sports field. I mean, that sometimes that can be an issue in itself. That can be an issue in itself, really, because I think what a lot of young people have to realise as well is that sometimes we might be successful at our dancing and our singing and our sport, but really you still need to have those expectations that you're going to succeed in the classroom as well. And that really has to be the overriding thing and the most important thing. I think maybe when you change and you find the right programme for yourself, you realise, well, hang on, you suddenly go from maybe being somebody who's not at the top of the class to somebody who is at the top of the class, and your confidence grows. So finding the right program at the right level and maybe having more people around you who are in your situation is a little bit more, gives you a bit more confidence. So you don't necessarily feel that, well, I'm here doing this program and everybody else has moved on, and you don't feel behind anymore. And that gives you a little bit more sense of, well, there is no rush then, really, is there? So I think that was really important. Many young Afro-Caribbean boys can succeed in education, and many of them do. And I think maybe sometimes we need to highlight the extent of us that do, because there are loads, there are many, and sometimes we don't always see that. I didn't see that until maybe I went to university. I didn't see that because you just don't know. So I think we need to highlight more people that do. I'm not too sure about the debate. Do we need more black teachers and so on? I think if we do get more black teachers, then I think maybe the responsibility has to be with them to maybe engage a little bit and to maybe take, you know, things a little bit a step forward.
From primary school, they usually like because they're underachieving because they know they have the potential. It's not that they have just a low achievement level. And if they started from like 13, 14, that's when they start to go down. That's when they start hanging on the streets. That's when they start getting into trouble and listening to their peers. And all the boys that do try to aspire to make something better of their lives, they get considered as bounties, which is like black on the outside and white on the inside. So then they don't like to go into that direction and aspire. They just like to stay with their friends and get the respect from their friends, and they don't really want to go out and achieve. So if there was something to do, it needs to start early, like from the secondary school.
So do you think that it would be about putting those values that are considered to be white, but teaching them to children like as being acceptable? So do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
So that then it wasn't a bounty thing, that it's just a general thing for a human being to be successful in our society.
Boys, they need to realise that to achieve, it's just not just white people or other races to do it. It's something for everybody, and that if they reach that level, then they could change the way, and then people younger than them could see that they made it, and then it will just become natural. We've all talked about how parents need to help, but I think teachers need to interact with the parents. Some parents don't actually know. I mean, some parents, most ethnic minority parents, weren't even born in this country, weren't raised here, so their values are not British values. They don't know nothing. I mean, I can speak for my parents that my mum she talks something about the newspaper about black youth, she will criticise on it, but she doesn't actually know that her own children can go out there and do it. She doesn't know how easy it is to fall into it. So some parents, they stay at home, they discipline and tell you how you should talk to others, how you should compose yourself at college and at school, but they neglect the fact that, okay, discipline is how you act against these people, but then there's things outside. When they leave that house, when they leave the door in the morning, what they face, their discipline doesn't help and doesn't come into how they can tackle those issues. And some parents are confused, and teachers, the only time they decide to talk to your parents is at parents' evening, where all they're doing is telling your parents negative things about you. They're not actually telling your parents. The teacher's most famous word is capable. Your child is capable, but they don't tell your parents. They don't tell your parents how you can allow your child to actually achieve those things.
That is
so parents go home.
I got a report yesterday.
Yeah.
So more positive interaction between parents and teachers is what you're
Yeah.
saying. How come some young black males can handle or can actually present the right balance between having to handle themselves on the streets and still achieve in school or in college? Why can some find the right balance and some cannot?
I think it's because...
I was just going to say, I think it's because like you have to, I think it's all about priorities at the end of the day, and experience to an extent as well, because what you see, like when you see certain people's or you hear certain people's story on the street, like, oh, they went from this extreme to coming out of college or whatever, and then they was looking for a job, couldn't find a job or whatever, and then next thing you know, that person could have end up dead in a casket somewhere, going to their funeral the next day. So, yeah, I think it depends on like how strong-minded you are as an individual, like to go through with what you really want and what you really desire.
I mean, I reckon it could be for like a number of reasons, but I think like one of the main ones might be like some black males do sort of mediate between them effectively, because some of them, I mean, priorities is important because the priorities sort of help you focus on the long term. I mean, if you've got a goal and you want to achieve it that badly, then you will be focused. You won't let anything like sort of take you off that trail. But I mean, understand it is hard for some people to look towards the long term. I think long term like goals and aspirations are like the best way to go about it. I mean, if you think like, oh, the only way I can like generate money is just by like selling drugs. It's quick, it's easy, but then if you look long term, you could get more money. You could have stability, because selling drugs, stealing, all that, it's not. From what I know, it's not stable. You're not always gonna have someone to buy the stuff off you. You're not always gonna be able to get the stuff. There's always the risk of getting caught. There's always the risk of getting gunned down or whatever, or stabbed. I mean, there's too much risk and there's too much like risk with it. But I reckon if you've got long-term goals, then that's the way to go. I reckon that's the way to go about it.
Okay, it's good. So what then can schools and colleges do to actually help young black males find the correct balance between what they do within the college and school gates, and basically the experiences that they have to deal with once they're outside that environment?
I reckon it could be down to like trying to understand what they're going through, but at the same time giving a bit more sort of positive encouragement, because from my experience, like, there's quite a few teachers look at a certain student and think, that student's that, for lack of a better term, maybe like a little hood rat or something like that. Like, he's that sort of a low life with no life. He's not going to go anywhere. So what's the point trying? I mean, it's just one of them was they might just need a bit of positive reinforcement just to sort of give them the self-confidence and the belief that they can succeed, instead of just labelling someone as a failure. It's about sort of trying to help them build confidence within themselves, because basically I don't reckon that you can do much unless you've got confidence in yourself. If you don't really believe in yourself, then you can't really do that much.
Well, I suppose, if it's like, if we're going to get one-on-one about it, we got to be talked to, I suppose. We've got to be set straight and said, well, all right, fair enough. Outside of the gates, it's a real hell of a lot easier for you to go make a lot of money. It's a lot easier for you to be some sort of big shot, whereas in here, it's a hell of a lot harder. And right now, that's what you need to be shown that in here, there's a hell of a lot bigger opportunity than there is out there. Because right now, the scope is the other way around.
Okay, so we need to highlight the opportunities, highlight the potential of what can be achieved.
Yeah, that's where we're getting this positive reinforcement thing from. Because if you don't say, well, in here, you actually can, then the only message you're going to get out there is, you can't in there, but you can out here.
A lot of them just want to skip, actually. Because, like, they get to a certain age and they realise that they've got to do the college thing, then they've got to do the university thing, then they're going to have to start down in the lower job and then work their way up. And they just want to skip all that and just go to the money straight away. That's why they possibly just don't want to come to the college. And they just try and find a way to do all that quick, instead for doing it the educational way.
But it's not always a case of greed or just wanting to skip. It's the fact that they might get themselves in a mess, end up having some girl pregnant and they have to take care of her, or their mother, single mother, may just be struggling and they have to find some way of supporting their mother and their little brothers and staying out of school and going on the streets making fast money to support their family. It's not always a selfish reason.
And I say what I think. Yeah, I think it's just the mentality of black people. There's black girls that don't necessarily want to come to school, but they have to because our parents make us. But when it comes to a boy, they don't have, like, your parents, the mums don't go, oh, go on, like, you have to go or you're going to get beats. They don't really care. So if the boy know they're going to get away with not going to school, they're not going to go.
But girls feel more pressured by their parents.
Girls are. They are pressured.
You think that boys, because back in the day, before, it used to be boys who had to go to school, get an education or whatever, but now with your single parents, single mothers, they want you to achieve something they haven't, so they're trying hardest for you to get somewhere. But boys don't really care.
And if you think about it, how are they going to get to... Why would they want to have interest in education when their parents let them out on the streets? Yeah, they don't come home until like 11, 12 tops, yeah. But if a girl was to come home at 8 o'clock with no explanation, she'll get cast like you're going to get pregnant. But you see, the parents they need to draw the line. It's not double standards. What's right for a boy should be right for a girl. If a boy is supposed to have a curfew, you've got school the next day, because doesn't meet the curfew, he doesn't even have one, of course he's not going to care about his education because he's having fun on the streets.
I agree with that. I think everything does start at home, like I said before, that there has to be installed values that they know that from, not even that, I don't mean that like from when you're like 5, whatever, like every single day you're doing tests or whatever, but like it's so that the child knows that you're gonna have a future, you're gonna be successful, you're gonna be this, you have to be determined. They have to know that they have to succeed the right way to make a, like, because I don't know, I think it's that it does start at home, and parents, a lot of black parents don't get into their head that they have a huge impact on their child's future. Not just that how they have to have a home and a safe place, but they have to help them to live in the real world. And in the real world, you won't last long if you don't know how to play the game. And to play the game, you need to educate yourself. You need to have things. You need to be stable enough to live the hard life, because it is a hard life out there. And like, if they don't have education, if they don't know how to live a real life, all they know is the street life, then they're not going to last. That's why people that do live the street life end up dying young, end up in jail, or just end up on the streets all the time. Parents need to tell their children that you need to do, not even just to do well, like maybe get A's and stuff, but you need to do your best. You need to make sure, you need to keep yourself, you need to keep your eye on the goal, and you need to be determined. The parents need to install it in their children that this is the way to go. And it's like for other teenagers as well, they need to support their younger siblings or support other family members as well. Because if you think about it, when you were younger, who did you look up to? You looked up to like your older cousins, or like your young aunties, or your older brothers and sisters. And that's a true factor for boys. Like younger boys, they look up to, if they don't have a dad, they'll look up to their older brother. If they don't have an older brother, they'll look up to like an older cousin or a close family member. So you need to make sure that you have installed values that you can pass on to other people and that are a good influence. Because if they're not good influence, it's not going to help you, and you're also destroying other people slightly along the line as well.
My name's Shane Mitchell, I'm 24. I went to an inner city London comprehensive and sixth form college. I achieved 3 C's, 6 A's, 3 C's and 8 A's at secondary school. I achieved 3 A's at sixth form college, and I went on to study economics, politics and philosophy at Oxford University. And I'm now an economics and business studies teacher. I knew how to work the system in terms of, there were limits towards, how far confrontation would go, and however some individuals who exceptionally talented just didn't, whether it be force of personalities and lack of understanding on the teacher's part in terms of where an individual was coming from, whether it be outside influences. There was lots of problems back then with gangs and triads and basically outside problems impacting on school life. Some teachers understood, some teachers were very much what's outside school is outside school, what's inside is inside, which might have been a bit of a naive standpoint in terms of, sometimes you just can't leave what goes on outside school inside. And they didn't really take it into account when actually, judging or evaluating a pupil's behaviour. And, I was lucky enough that I wasn't suspended too many times, but, there were people with frequent suspensions, and unfortunately these suspensions eventually resulted in exclusions. The mismanagement of confrontations from the teacher's point of view was never deliberate. It was more, a sense of they weren't willing to take a step back and avoid the confrontation. In terms of, the minute you get into a confrontation with any boy, okay, that confrontation is going to have an endpoint, and the endpoint is usually going to result in, the boy going beyond the pale and, sanctions having to be put in place. You add into that the cultural differences, and you've got a young black boy who is used to confrontation, and when a confrontation is presented to him, he feels that he needs to, stand up for himself, more as. Basically, he hasn't split up what happens on the streets and what happens inside, the classroom. If he can't make the distinction, it's really up to the teacher to realise what are the motivations behind these confrontations. Because some of these confrontations originated from the most silly of incidences, silly issues which have just spiraled out of control. And, it's more of that ignorance to the sort of, what's going on inside that boy's head that's making him want to confront me over an issue that really isn't important, wasn't serious in the first place, and now my problem isn't with the original incident, is actually with his reaction. And that, more than anything else, was startling, the fact that confrontations happen all the time in schools, but, you know, to the eventual sanction that you have, the sanction was no longer for the original misdemeanor, it's been to the reaction. And that seems to be the problem that boys, and to a certain extent Afro-Caribbean boys especially faced during my time there. The absence of a father figure or a father full stop within a young Afro-Caribbean male's life has a definite impact on their educational attainment. It has a definite impact on any kid, no matter what their race. Just having that support system, that family system behind them, you know, when there are difficulties. Afro-Caribbean women they have a great reputation for being strong, having strong personalities, you know, really being able to work effectively in the face of adversity. However, no matter how strong they are, there are times when a young Afro-Caribbean boy needs to hear the stabilizing opinions of a world-wise, a mature Afro-Caribbean male. And when those sort of viewpoints and opinions and that sort of support isn't available, it has a definite impact. Myself, I didn't have a father figure, but that made individuals react to the lack of a support system in different ways. It just made me very stubborn. And a stubbornness which sometimes wasn't constructive, but overall it was constructive in that I just had the attitude that no matter what, this is what I want to achieve, I would achieve it. You know, and although it had a definite impact on me, there are varying degrees or levels of, you know, trauma. If there isn't a father figure in the household, it's usually down to a certain level of trauma. You know, the fact that either they've never known their fathers, or probably even more destabilizing, they've known their father and the father's now left the household for various reasons. You know, I had the milder version, so, you know, it was fine. But in various instances, you know, they've known their father, and when that father figure's taken away, there are emotional difficulties to deal with. And, you know, when you add in emotions to what they need to attain educationally, it's very difficult, very, very difficult. But stubbornness for me was the quality which helped me to overcome that. Some people, you know, they find it it takes a bit longer for them to develop that sense of, you know, trying to achieve no matter what barriers are put in front of them. There were definite positive aspects within schools and colleges which helped, you know, both myself and other individuals to overcome, you know, the various barriers, lack of father figures, outside influences. Definite systems and, more importantly, individuals that helped us to overcome. My schools, they've had their flaws, but essentially both have been characterised by having very good pastoral systems, i.e. pastoral systems which have been led by inspirational figures, to be fair. Not surprisingly, but I don't know, the sort of inspirational figures I think about, they've been female. You know, the sort of the female leaders of the pastoral systems, you know, who have had a level of understanding which has been required, and have been really, really supportive. Individuals rather than systems those are the people that stick to mind now, 8 years later. Individuals who I still talk to today, and I think that in itself is a testimony to how effective they were. It definitely makes a difference that I am a young black male teacher within the classroom. Immediately it breaks down that first barrier of whether it be excuses or that first barrier of defence that, you know, young black boys have in terms of, you know, they've been wronged, or, you know, initially they believe that they are in this them and us situation. You know, the fact that I am young black, and the fact that, even more importantly, the fact that I do come from the same socio-economic background from all the young black boys that I teach, it's a definite advantage. But past that, whether you're black or white, and this is a problem with the teaching profession in general, what sort of individuals does the teaching profession actually attract? You know, to deal with young boys in these sort of socio-economic conditions, it takes a certain character, you know, and characteristics such as, I don't know, being willing to actually, you know, deal with confrontations, having a certain level of confidence in both in your ability and your ability to inspire others. You know, does the teaching profession actually attract individuals on a high enough level to actually, you know, staff all its schools with such individuals? I've been fortunate enough to meet individuals during my educational life, but do young black boys in troubled areas, in the institutions which have the greatest troubles, are they faced with these sort of inspirational characters? I'm talking about teachers of the highest ability, the highest talents, you know, the high flyers who came out of school and aren't walking into the city, but are actually looking on teaching as being a job, you know, to actually aspire to. That first off. Personal qualities of, you know, confidence, not only just confidence in your abilities, but confidence in your beliefs. So that, you know, when these beliefs are challenged, and it will be challenged many a time in the classroom. They've been challenged many a time in my classroom. The fact that you have, you know, strength of personality to say, well, do you know what? No, this is what we should be doing. And individuals, pupils, they react to that. They react to individuals who are so strong in their beliefs and believe it sincerely. Now, are we getting those sort of individuals? Individuals with an understanding of the situation that they are facing. So real understandings of, you know, what actually goes on when those pupils aren't in your vicinity, when they aren't in your care from 9 to 5. You know, what are these pupils actually facing? Because, you know, students don't need this to actually be articulated verbally or, you know, explicitly. But if they actually believe, you know, in themselves that they actually understand what's going on, then the reactions that you get from those students are much more giving. I believe there's a really important role for external agencies in terms of helping schools and institutions deal with external factors and external influences, negative external influences that impact on the achievement of young black boys. There's an informative role for them to play in terms of external agencies provide a vital source of information about, you know, sort of problems which happen within the communities. Schools, colleges, they service local communities, they service local estates. How can a school service the pupils from that estates if it fails to realise or understand the specific problems of those estates, of those areas? There's a definite role in terms of, essentially, for every one there is of me, there are another 5 young black males, teachers, support staff, just staff in general within schools that are needed in order to be more representative of, you know, the communities that schools actually service. It takes a long process to train these people within schools, but if you have external agencies which, you know, have young black male role models, there's a need to get them within the schools to actually expose young black boys to these sort of positive role models. Definitely. I wouldn't so much call it a failure on the part of institutions to actually, you know, take this path up. It's difficult. As much as you need the information, you need to know where to look. And from that point of view, there is a role for the central government and local government to actually aid schools and aid institutions to actually find out, you know, these are the agencies, tried, trusted, proven, you know, who can actually come in and help you economically in an efficient manner. Political correctness definitely inhibits those within positions of power and influence from actually asking those difficult questions of the black community. As a community, has the black community has it done enough to actually, you know, support, actually put into action, you know, those policies which will help young black boys? I believe the desire is there. The desire is within any community to actually, you know, better the fortunes of your young charges with your community. Of that, the black community cannot be faulted. What maybe it can be faulted on has been the ways in which it's actually tried to go about it. You know, whether it be the Commission for Racial Equality and the individuals that have headed it and the decisions they've made, or whether it flows to, you know, the sort of policies and the cases from which they've decided to take up, or whether it be that, you know, essentially the black community within certain parts of England has a lot of political power. We make up a very big number of the ethnic minority community within this country. Have we always used the one point of recourse that every individual has, which is the vote? You know, it's very easy for political leaders to ignore a minority group when that minority group refuses to use the power which they actually have, you know, to make these people think about what they're doing. And that's a question for, you know, every single member of the black community, myself included.
We're here to remember our past and look forward to our future. We used to be brothers, but now in the street your brother would turn and shoot you. Or your brother would stamp on your head and leave you to bleed to death. We're here to remember the good in us, because the good in us nowadays is hard to find. Which is sad to be said, but it has to be, you know? But this ain't about me, it's about us. We all have problems in a system that promotes our failure, in a system where we are conditioned to fail. Again, it is sad, but it needs to be said. After what our race has been through, bit by bit, you used to destroy Martin Luther's dream, but you don't really care because you want to be part of the scene. So this is Black history. Let's look back on the past where we were treated second class, but now here we are better off, but you still want to throw it away. You want to live your life in an image. Instead of aspiring to improve yourself, you want to be the gangster and lose yourself, and eventually your health. As a person, I've witnessed my generation fall and never recover. As a writer, I've written about it because I still struggle to understand. I know my path, and you should know yours. But most of you are blind. Lost in the world of bling, which means nothing when you die. You don't know how lucky you are. You want to be ghetto, bad boy gangsters. This is reality. Bullets do worse than scar. Your stupidity is underrated. You're just a bunch of clowns. It's going to be deja vu. It's going to be deja vu when they report when you get downed. But then again, you're a part of the legion of fools who think they run the town. When the time comes, your mother will join the groups of grieving mothers. Mothers against guns came too late for some people. But the next generation don't care. So wait for Young Dead Black Man, the sequel, because it's coming to a town near you. The show is repeated every day because it comes true. Somebody once told me that dragging out a poem is like killing a mockingbird. So I'm going to end it with God, because you know he's the word.